Hey everyone, I hope everyone's doing okay. I'm coming on today to do a VR to Anna at Astral Lady Tarot. This is hashtag cliche tarot reader. Okay, so I'm actually doing, so Anna's kind of a points that she's asked about in her video, but I'm like doing what I'm going to call the James Feeney extension, because I watched James's video. His response to this, and I thought it was really good. And he's actually added a few things on which I can relate to. But to start off with Anna's points, the first one was owning more than one version of a particular deck. And like everyone, pretty much everyone else, I'd imagine, I do cover this with the Rider-Waite Smith. So I've got the yellow box Rider Tarot deck, as it's named on it, Smithwaite. And this is just the kind of a printed titles. So this one with the plaid backs. I got this years and years ago just because I didn't have any plaid backs, um, like any Smithwaite plaid backs, and I just got a wee bit obsessed with it and decided, I want to get one. So I got this off of eBay, I think. Um, but I don't even think it's that. It's not like a rare copy or anything like that. But anyway, yeah. Um, I've got that. So this, the original Rider-Waite Tarot deck, Smithwaite, was my very first deck that I ever had. I've actually got two copies of this. I've got another copy um, in a box over there, which is like, trimmed and it's all banged up. It's an absolute mess, but I still love it. And this is just a kind of a good copy. I didn't get this for the intention of having a backup. Actually, this came by accident. I I didn't think I was buying. I was supposed to be buying the Universal, this one, and this came instead for some reason. And I never really did anything about it. So this has just stayed with me. But it's good to have like a kind of a non-trimmed backup of it because I do actually quite like it as a deck. I know not many people do. And as I say, the universal weight. So definitely get more than one version of a deck. Um, Backup decks, I mean, unless you can kind of count that, the what I've just mentioned about the original Smithway, um, I don't actually have any backup decks, I don't think. Um, I I tend to be of the view that, if you're going to get another deck, why not just get a different deck that you don't have rather than buying one that you do have? Um, I mean, I'm sure I will live to regret that one day when my one deck of whatever type gets banged up or damaged or a card gets lost or something. I'll regret not having a backup. Um, but yeah, I don't actually have a backup for the sake of having a backup. I've thought about it with like the Lightseers, which I would deem my soul deck. Um, I've thought about getting a backup for that, but so far I don't. Point three is having a tarot tattoo. I don't have any tattoos at all. And that's not because I have anything against tattoos. I would actually really love to have tattoos, but I have this problem just committing, actually finding an image that I love and committing to it. To be fair, if I was going to get a tattoo, it would probably be tarot related. So maybe in a year's time or whatever, I can update this and I'll meet that point. Um, the I am a complete and utter tea, Jenny. It's got nothing to do with tarot, whether I'm reading tarot or not. I've pretty much, my spaces in between cups of tea don't really last long. Um, so yeah, I do love a good cup of tea, especially when I'm reading cards. Crystals, I do have them. Here's an example. We've got another example over here. This is Sandra, the onyx egg. Um, There is a story as to why the egg is called Sandra, but I'll leave that for another day. I do have crystals. I wouldn't say that I particularly use them as a reader, except to mark the corners of where my camera, my table camera is. So not really your traditional crystal use, but I suppose at the end of the day I do use them. Um, Tarot books, I do have tarot books, yeah. I've got, I've got Mary Greer books. I've obviously got the 78 Degrees of Wisdom, both on in book form, and I have the audiobook as well. Um, and yeah, I've got various books that I've amassed over the years. Both companion books, guidebooks, and just tarot books on their own. So yeah, definitely have tarot books. Um, Keeping a tarot journal, so that's an interesting one. I wouldn't really say that I really do that. I do have a general kind of a journal, grimoire, book of shadows, whatever you want to call it. And sometimes I will jot down things about readings that I do for myself, but I don't keep it as a specific tarot journal. It's really just a anything journal that I'll put things in. For example, I have the points that I'm responding to all written down. So I'll often do that if I'm doing VRs that are got a list to them. I'll list them in this journal. The shuffle. I mean, I think we all do that. We kind of need to. We need to, as tarot readers, we need to shuffle our cards. I predominantly would use overhand and the riffle shuffle. If a deck is in order, I've got a thing about doing 7 riffle shuffles. To me, that's the perfect number of riffle shuffles that will randomize your tarot deck. I also do this other thing where after I've, you know, riffle shuffled my 7 times and done some overhands in between, I'll go through the deck and make sure there aren't clumps of consecutive cards together. Uh, just to be sure, because I know for a fact that if like I'm pulling out cards and I get the Fool, then the Magician, then High Priestess, and then the Empress, etc., etc. If I get cards together like that in clumps, it's going to take my attention away from the reading. I'm going to constantly be questioning, oh, I've not shuffled that right, I've not shuffled that right. That shouldn't be like that. That's just because I've not done it right. I'll constantly, and it'll take my focus away from actually reading the damn cards that are in front of me. So I do that. And if I do find big clumps that shouldn't be, that shouldn't be together, but if I find big clumps together that I don't think should be, then I'll shift them about, and then I'll continue the shuffle until I kind of feel right. So I do have a particular shuffling method, so very much a cliche in that regard. What else? So we've got fairy lights. That is not something that I have. I have fairy lights from my Christmas tree. Actually, various packs of fairy lights from my Christmas tree because, and this isn't a tarot cliche. I think this is just a person cliche where, for some reason, when fairy lights go bad or when they stop working, I don't tend to throw them out, and I don't know why because I, I don't know what I think I'm going to do with them, how they're going to come in useful one day, but. Yeah, I can't lie. I do have various packs of fairy lights, but as I say, not for the purpose of any reading, and I don't have them in my space or anything like that. Candles. So I do have candles. I've got some lovely candles. This is a wild honey and nectar candle. Um, I've got one here that my other half bought me just the other day, last weekend. This is a Yankee candle. This is macaron treats. It smells amazing. But I actually don't really tend to like candles. Um, I just like to have them have them sitting open, and then I'll smell like strong smelling ones. And I'll smell them, when I'm in my office space. And you know what it does? My other half's not in. He will. He keeps threatening to light my candles, and I'm like, don't you dare. I don't want them lit. I just want to smell the, smell the smell from them without lighting them. So yeah, a designated tarot table, I wouldn't really say so. I usually, if I'm slinging cards, it'll be on my desk here. But this isn't just for tarot. This is where I work. This is like my computer setup is here. So if I'm on the PC for any other reason, then I use that for that as well. So it's not really a designated, excuse me, tarot table, uh, but I do have a space that I use for tarot. So this is where we come on to the good old James Feeney extension. So some of the things that James mentioned, predictive readings. So yeah, I mean yeah, that you're kind of a can't get away from it almost, I think. Although maybe that's my ignorance shown, but I think like to some degree we kind of all do it, regardless of what view you take on how the tarot works. And maybe that can be a separate hashtag. How does the tarot work? And we can all chat through how we think it works. But regardless of how you think it works, I think that predictive reading is valid. Um, so, for example, if you're like really kind of a scientific, logical, analytical, you use this, you view this as a psychological tool, or you view it as a tool for creative thinking. I still would say that it's a valid tool for prediction, um, because I'm a firm believer that we all walk about every day and there's opportunities flying left, right, and centre. And to some degree, we walk about with our head in the clouds, and we miss a lot of the opportunities that happen. You know, you're not going to consciously notice every single thing that happens to you at every moment of the day. But if somebody previously says to you, like, and the example that I always use is, you're going to see a £5 note, a fiver, you know, or a $5 note, whatever, you're going to come across one in the street. Um, you can be sure that if you do come across one in the street, you're definitely going to see it. Whereas if nobody had said that to you, my question would be, would you still notice that? Potentially not. So I think that it does bring possibilities, potentials to the forefront of your mind. And for that reason, it can be a really powerful tool for prediction. Now, that was a wee silly example that I used, finding a £5 note in the street. But when you think about the more kind of a bigger life stuff that you can talk to people about, um, I think that it really can be a decent tool to use for. I think that predictive readings can be a decent tool, and obviously that's just from an analytical, scientific mind point of view. You might view this as tapping into some other realm, messages from spirit, messages from guides, etc., etc. In which case, you might see yourself as looking at the forecasting the future based on their messages. I think that's enough rambling about that. But I think it's a topic that really interests me. Cloths, bags, and boxes. So you can kind of adjust, see in the corner of the screen there. I do keep tarot decks in their boxes usually. There's a few that don't have boxes that I've got. And for them, I do use bags. Or for some of them, I've got like my Thoth deck, which I've had for years and years, and I don't have the box anymore. I do keep that in a kind of it's kind of a cloth that's made into like a wee bag type thing. This actually came with jewellery. I think it was like an Armani piece of jewellery my mum got me for Christmas years and years ago. It came with that, and that's what I use for keeping this deck in. And I've got a couple more like that. So yeah, definitely. I like to store them and keep them safe. But generally, I'll keep them in their boxes. That's why I love when you get a deck that comes in a nice sturdy box. Like I just got this today. This is Tarot of the Abyss by Anatolian, and this comes in your nice, got to do the chap test. This comes in a nice sturdy box that's going to keep them safe. I could throw this from one end of the room to the other, and the chances are, the cards are going to be fine, and the box is going to be fine. Not that I'm suggesting you do that. But anyway, moving on. Am I funny about people touch my decks? Well, I think there are definitely decks in my collection. Maybe some of the kind of like rarer ones, more valuable ones. I wouldn't really want anyone touching that. But I would say that for anything, not just tarot decks. If I've got something that's particularly valuable, whether it's monetary wise or whether it's valuable to me, for a personal reason, um, I would tend to keep that safe and keep that away from public hands. Um, Whereas in general, if it's like a workhorse deck, I don't really have an issue with people, shuffling them, touching them, doing. Like, I kind of view that as them putting them shuffling the deck as them putting it into the order that it's supposed to be in for them, in my view. Um, that's not to say that won't be subject to change. It's something that I just kind of get feelings about. And there might come a day when I'm like, do you know what? I feel as though this just works better when I just shuffle and do my thing rather than letting someone else handle the cards. But I don't have anything against it. Certainly not at the moment. Uh, Started with the RWS. Well, we've kind of covered that. Yeah, I started off with the original Rider-Waite tarot deck. And it was the deck that I used for years and years. The Celtic Cross, definitely use it. It's a spread that I really love. I think works amazing. There's different versions of it, that have come about over the years, and even still, we're still getting some really nice kind of new views on the kind of a position meanings. James Feeney, for example, I'm sure James did a video relatively recently on his Celtic Cross. Tom Benjamin fairly recently did a video on his version of the Celtic Cross, um, both of which, really, really nice. Personally, the one that I use the most is Rachel Pollock's Celtic Cross from 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Um, I've actually got a series on, like a kind of mini series playlist on spreads, and I go through how I read the Celtic Cross in that. Kind of check that out if you're interested on how I view the Celtic Cross. But yeah, it's definitely one that I use, and it is the one that I started off with as well. I think that's maybe like a sub cliche underneath the Celtic Cross is, that was that the first spread? Did you start off with that one? In which case, I definitely did. Cleanse and interview. I don't cleanse. Um, Maybe like I mean, if you would view putting the deck in order and then, shuffling it again, just kind of almost resetting it a wee bit, then I suppose that's a wee bit of a cleanse. But I don't use sage or any smokes or incenses or anything like that to cleanse a deck. Um, I do interview spreads. If you've watched any of my kind of a deck walkthroughs, you'll probably have, at the end of when I do a walkthrough, at the end of it, I like to show the cards in action, and I'll generally do an interview spread with the deck that I'm reading with, that I'm showing. So yeah, I do walkthroughs. I find them interesting, and they can be quite useful. Um, And I think that's really all, folks. I think that's me covered all of the points that I've got in front of me. So I will link in the description Anna at Astral Lady Tarot's original video. I'll also link James's because I took a lot of inspiration from that. Um, but yeah, I'm definitely interested to see everyone else's. I know there's been a lot so far, and I'm interested to see even more. So if you're watching this and you haven't done it yet, then let's see your VR. What are your tarot cliches? I'm interested. But thank you for watching. Take care, everyone, and I shall speak to you all soon.